unalive
And what about
themselves.
the fact that
That's very
women's mental health has been astronomically growing in the negative direction under feminism, especially under the egalitarianism of gender? They report the happiest levels that women report are when they're married and in traditional gender roles.
Have you ever heard of the term ignorant? The phrase "ignorance is bliss"?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Do I need to go and experience killing someone, right, to know that I don't want to experience killing someone?
What?
Well,
how does that have anything to do with what I
ignorance
said?
is bliss. It's possible, for instance, that I could kill someone and really love it, right?
Would
That's
I be
possible.
able to maybe talk about it?
Well, hang on. I want you to answer my question. Is that possible?
I just don't really understand how
Can
that's
you answer
related.
my question, though? Is it possible that I could kill somebody and then just really like it?
But how does that in
Can
any
you
way...
answer my question, please? Stop negating the question. Just answer the question.
I just don't really want to talk about
I don't
murder.
care what you want to talk. I want you to answer my question, and I'll answer yours.
I'm not answering your question. Just go to
You're
your
not
point.
going to answer my question?
About murder? That's not related to this at all.
Yes, it's logically...
Answer how you think I would answer. Answer how you want me to answer. And
What do you mean? I'm in a debate with you. I'm not in a debate with me.
I'm not why would I answer this hypothetical question about murder that has nothing to do with I was talking about...
Then if it has nothing to do with it, I'm going to look really stupid, right? So just answer the question.
So, go ahead and finish because I would like to...
So my question to you was, isn't it possible that I could kill someone and really like it? That would be yes or no. Waiting.
Yeah, I understand how this works, but...
I need you to answer my questions. We're in a debate. I will answer your questions, but you also need to answer mine or I can't get to the worldview. Yes or no?
Okay. This seems like a really moot point to me. And
Can you just answer it then? You've wasted like 2 minutes not answering the question.
This is like a 3-hour debate.
Yeah, why are you wasting time? Just answer the question.
Look, Kylie, it's conceivable that you're going to propose hypothetical questions to Andrew to test
and I'll answer
his
them.
Logic and worldview. He'll answer it. I think it's a fair question if you can answer it.
As the moderator, sure. I suppose it is possible, yes, that if you did it, then you would enjoy it, although it makes me uncomfortable to talk about that.
Okay, but if this is the case, well, it would be possible for any human being.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's logically possible. So the thing is that knowing that this is true, that we could, I am actually ignorant, having never killed anybody, right? And I am in bliss about that. I, myself, am really, really happy that I've never done that, even though I could do that and could be very happy about that. The idea that you would make the point, ignorance is bliss, seems to entail...
Well, you didn't even let me get to talk.
Hang on. I just want
You're just talking over me.
I'll give you the quick answer.
I have to wait for you to let me talk. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So what I would say is this. When you say ignorance is bliss, all you're doing is alluding to the fact that people should engage
I'm giving you
in
15
risky
seconds, and if
behavior
you don't
that
give
they
me the
may have
mic, I'm
lighted.
leaving. Go ahead. 15.
Oh my God, you're going to leave?
Yeah.
Oh no. Uh-oh.
Look, Andrew's finishing his point.
I was.
He was finishing his point.
No, I'm serious. 15 seconds.
Hold on,
because he's been talking for the last 5 minutes. So it's really not fair. You're not moderating very well here.
Well, to be fair, you guys got to allow...
We were actually doing really well, I think.
Hold on.
Until I was making a broader point, and then that wasn't allowed.
Well, it was at the expense of me speaking is the problem.
Hold on, just one moment. So, look, in conversations and especially in a debate, look, sometimes people are gonna butt in. There's been a few times you've done it.
Yeah.
Andrew's done it. You've both done it. I'm trying my best here.
Well, that's why I'm alerting you. I feel like at this point I would like to be able to speak my point because he rebutted me before I was able to give my point, and that's been happening the last 5 minutes.
You asked me a question. Have you heard the term ignorance is bliss?
So I could speak and explain my point.
Yeah, so then I said yes and said, but here's the problem with that.
And then talk for about 3-4 minutes and then try to back me into corner over
give
nonsense.
the expression. When I ask you a question, you answer it. I expect a yes or no, and then you give a comprehensive answer like I was.
So can I give my explanation now?
Are you done, Andrew?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you going back like 5 minutes basically to what you mentioned was the term like, oh, women are happier in the home with a husband and kids, right? Mm-hmm. And so the term of ignorance is bliss, I think for a lot of women who do not have the opportunity to get an education and they are forced to be in the home, they don't know any other alternative. So some women are truly happy, but if that becomes the standard that women have to be in the home and have kids and they don't have the opportunity to get an education, then of course that's going to be something that they think brings them joy because they don't have any other opportunities. And so like there's a lot of people in my mom's generation or my grandma's generation where like they were like, man, I wish I could have gone to school and like had an education and like picked someone, and they just fell into a marriage that either was abusive or like they weren't happy. And so I think that it's easier to report higher levels of happiness when you perceive it to be your only option is living in the home and having children and raising them. Yeah. So, but what do you have to say to that? Because
so interestingly,
because it goes to your like underreported things like you were talking about
First
earlier.
of all, when you give anecdotal evidence like, oh, my mom and mom's friends.
Oh, I
may
can
have
give you an
wished-
actual study
hang
if you
on,
want.
May have, and I can refute it, I promise. But here's the thing: when you give anecdotal evidence and you say, well, my mom's friends, this and that, wish that they could have gone to school. There's also anecdotal evidence, and an awful lot of it, and you can find it on YouTube right now, of tons of women saying they wish that they had not gone and gotten a career, and wish that they would have instead deferred those childbearing years in order to have a family, because they see the happiness levels of their friends, colleagues, coworkers, things like this. That anecdotally is also just as true. But to even go on to the ignorance is bliss, I could say this and make this case about literally anything. I could say, well, I would love heroin, right? I've never taken it, but ignorance is bliss, right? Oh, I could say ignorance is bliss about literally anything, any drug,
Well, that's not the only
hang on,
statistic I have,
any
though.
risky, I didn't cut you off, any risky behavior, any of this. I could say that about anything. What you're doing is saying, these women are happy. There must be some bad reason for that.
Oh, no, some women are happy.
No, you're saying
I agree.
these women are happy, and there must be a bad reason for that. And the bad because they're doing
Not for all
traditional.
of them.
Hang on, because they're doing traditional gender roles. So that must be bad. So we can explain that away by saying if they had all these negative experiences, that those women who have those negative experiences actually report a higher unhappiness level, those women would actually be happier. That's absurd logic, by the way.
Okay, sure. Well, again, I agreed with you on quite a few things there, but I would also like to say that, like I said at the beginning in my opening statement, the home being the most dangerous place for women, like there are women who are in abusive marriages, and so they have to convince themselves that they are happy because their husband is beating them or like assaulting them or harming their children. And when you're in that sort of situation, it's very difficult to be able to walk away from it, and oftentimes because you're isolated. And so, yeah, because the home is the most dangerous place for women, and 6 women are killed every hour in the home around the world. Those are very difficult realities that a lot of people don't want to grasp. And I'm not saying that every woman doesn't, isn't happy in the home. I think there are plenty of happy moms. I mean, my mom has worked and raised our children, her children, and my sisters and I, and like helped my dad out with like work. But yeah, for the most part, was a stay-at-home mom, and I think she really enjoyed it. But for me, at this point in my life, that's not something that I would like. And it's not to say that it's it's a bad thing, but I think that some people are convincing themselves that they're happy when in reality it's a very difficult and abusive situation.
I'm going to have to go back to the NIS where I point out to you that as you keep saying that the most dangerous situation for women is in the home.
Well, that's according to the UN around the world, though, not just here.
Okay, but inside of the United States, at least, and inside of the Western nations, this is a commonality that they all share. It's not usually from the husband. It's usually from boyfriends of single women or single moms. Or as far as, for instance, cohabitation. Cohabitation leads to some of the worst outcomes for women when they're not married, and men. It leads to terrible outcomes for both. This idea that you have that when you say this, it's very loaded. It gives the impression that husbands are at home abusing their wives, and the opposite is actually true. The truth is that when women get divorced and they end up in these occupied relationships, that's when they end up with the most amount of abuse, not from their husbands.
Well, I think it's, how we were talking about earlier about like confounding factors and other things that might, the classification of things might change the results of studies. For this one, I'm looking at it, and it says facts and statistics on, domestic violence DV, and it's mainly including intimate partner. So it's not talking about husband or boyfriend.
That's why we separate them, right? So we would separate those two categories to see who's the more abusive.
Do you have a statistic?
Yes, I just gave it to you twice from the NIS.
But I know, but like I'm looking at it, and again, like I'm having.
Show me the numbers from the NIS that you're looking at. I actually don't believe you.
Oh, I'm not looking at that NIS right now. I was looking at it earlier, could not find the number you were talking about.
Yeah, but you looked
like,
at it
that
for
does not
1
exist.
minute.
No, I didn't.
You did. I literally pulled it direct from the NIS itself.
When there is a minor in the home and there is abuse, they look at both parents. And in that case, they are finding, according to this, the Domestic Violence Center data for Mankind Initiative, I'm finding...
The Mankind Initiative?
Yeah, here,
The
I'll
cult?
send it to you.
The cult? The Mankind Initiative?
I have no idea what you're talking. I mean, this is it's a statistic, it's like a study that's produced.
Yeah,
or I could go to the University of Pennsylvania's one
do
if you
that
want.
because the
Okay.
Mankind Initiative, as far as I know, is a Western cult which exists as a demasculating agency. Just so you know.
Okay. Well, so it's saying analyzing 31,000. This is Penn today. So this does go to your point. It is just slightly above the spouse rate for abusive boyfriends. But again,
And those go reported much more, right? The marriage rates go reported much more than the than these rates where you're living outside of the home with another man.
Right. So
Because that's the more common living arrangement. Therefore, I am correct. It is true that the most dangerous situation is co-occupancy, not marriage.
I mean, there's different. I think it's difficult. You deal a lot in absolutes, and as a teacher, that's something that we are told not to do to facilitate like open communication. Is because you typically say, "Well, this is true. This is true. That means I am truth. I am correct in saying this thing." But again, statistics are changing all the time. So actually, you're contradicting yourself
No, I'm
because
not
at the
doing
beginning
that.
you were like,
What I'm saying is
things
that
change.
I can negate these with logic by simply pointing this out.
I mean, you can negate
That if it is
anything
the
when you talk
case-
to yourself like you do because you're not really listening
when
to
it
the
is
words that are coming out of my
case,
mouth.
I'm listening
but-
to, do you want me to steel man your position? You just said to me that everything when it comes to statistics is fluid. I would tend to agree with that based on
Okay.
oncoming data which is coming
Right.
in. However, we still have to apply logic and inductive reasoning even when we're dealing with data sets, especially.
I didn't say we don't. I agree.
So those are unchanging, unconfounding variables, logic and reason. So if we're using those two things, we can easily point to this and say, we know for sure that it's going to be underreported in cohabitation and possibly reported at least better from the marriage standpoint. That's probably true. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody would really dispute that.
Yeah, actually, I found a study to your point. Researchers have consistently found higher rates of violence in cohabitating compared
Yep.
to marital relationships. But in those cases, still, it is 95% of perpetrators are male. So what do you have to say in terms of that?
Yeah, okay, so here's what happens. What feminism has done, especially with the destruction of the marriage, is it has put women in the most vulnerable position, where now they leave their home with their husband, where the abuse rates are not nearly so high as pretentious feminists pretend they are, so that they can cohabitate with men, with other men who are strangers to them, strangers to their children. It puts their children at risk, and it puts them at actually higher risk than if they had stayed with their husbands in most cases.
Oh, okay. That makes sense as an explanation, but I think that, again, that's an anecdote that's probably not true for everybody. And the cases are pretty clearly in place. Like the evidence has shown that regardless of whether there's children in the marriage, 95% of the perpetrators are men. And, we were talking about how it is likely underreported for female perpetrators, right, in marriages. I'm sure there are abusive wives, but I think that the point being is that it is it is definitely a pattern in terms of, in the United States, of the home being made unsafe because of men that live there. It doesn't have to be the husband, but it is men that are, being violent with the women that they are living with. And I think your point about how it's women that are picking these boyfriends that are abusing them is not fair, because again, you don't know men that are going to turn out to be abusive until they hit you one day. It doesn't start out with, if you went on a first date with a woman and she clocked you in the face, would you continue to date her? No, you wouldn't. It's the same with women.
Here's what we're going to do.
okay,
Andrew, you give your response, then we're going to do prompt change.
Okay.
Okay, so okay. Just
But yeah,
so
that
you
was the end
know,
of my
I don't
statement.
even understand this. Like, all of the stats back up exactly what I'm saying. You agree with me that what I'm saying is likely the most true case scenario, at least compared to all the
About
numbers.
boyfriends being more abusive?
Yeah, can I finish? Right?
Oh, I was just
I didn't
clarifying.
cut you off. So the thing is like, look, as we look at this data, the data backs up everything that I just said, especially when it comes to cohabitation. You say, well, it's not women's responsibility that they're picking these men. It's like, well, women are initiating most of these divorces. For one, they're leaving their husbands. They put themselves in this confounding situation where now they're being abused by strange men, often because they want them as sexual partners or other things like this. You say, well, that's true that the abuse happens inside of these places, male, whether there's children or not. Great. But when it's a cohabitation event where children are involved, you're now putting your children at risk because the risk skyrockets for abuse. Skyrockets for abuse of those children. No wonder men don't want to get married to modern women if they're going to get divorced, and their women are going to put their children in an abusive situation, right? And that's what the stats show more than anything. Not that women are being abused, but that when they have authority over children, they are putting them in situations where they are abused or abusing them themselves. That's what's actually happening.
We do have to change prompt.